Most memorable part of my career, I'm gonna go with winning the World Championships in 2008 in Ireland when I wasn't even supposed to be there. And in a couple of ways, I might not have been there. One, they weren't gonna let me go. Two, I should have died 7 different ways leading up to that event.
My name is Andrew Smitte. All right, guys, welcome to the Successful Smitte podcast. I got a really exciting guest. Her name is Rhonda Rajsich. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I probably butchered it. But she's a professional racquetball player and has been ranked the #1 racquetball player in the world from 2005 to 2008 and also 2010 and 2011. She's been a world champion in the women's singles twice, Pan American champion 6 times, and as well as a US Open champion 4 times. And I didn't invite her as a guest just because of her accomplishments, even though she has a huge list of them. I brought her on because she has an incredible story, and she's probably one of the toughest people mentally I've ever met. And I think she has an amazing story that needs to be shared. So, Rhonda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And apparently my puppy wants to introduce herself as well. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I was super excited to hear you've got a podcast going. So this is awesome to be a part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself, anything I missed or yeah.
Let's see. Oh, accomplishments. I do have a record, 12 national singles titles.
Dang.
Got 3 national doubles titles. I don't know. I've never Googled myself, and I never will. So I'm actually just gonna take it on faith that your intro is accurate.
All right, awesome. But yeah, Rhonda, you have a really incredible story. I know you've told me it before, and this is something I think, like I said before, everyone I feel like needs to hear. So tell us kind of about your racquetball journey and like the struggles that you faced and like some of the challenges.
So I started playing racquetball when I was 2. My parents joined the health club when I was 2. They stuck me in the nursery, and I figured out how to sneak out. My father was just learning to play racquetball from my godfather, who actually delivered me when I was born. And so I would sneak out, and I would kind of wander around the club and figure out which court my dad was on, and wait for him to get, in between games. And in the meantime, I would go down to the basketball court and wait for him to be between games and come back up when he walked off, and I'd steal his racket and run onto the racquetball court and, swing the stick a little bit. And it's funny, little side note. I think that until I started doing interviews like this, when I started getting, kind of up there in the rankings and whatnot, and I would get asked how I got started. Until my parents actually heard these interviews, I don't think either one of them knew that I was sneaking out. I think my dad thought my mom was taking me out, and my mom thought my dad was taking me out. So,
that's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So he'd come back over. Hey, kid, give the big people the racket back. Now, what are you doing out here anyway? Where's your mother? And I'd go back down to the basketball court, which is essentially what I did with my life. I played racquetball and basketball pretty much my whole life. I mean, I played everything at least once, but those were the 2 that I enjoyed the most. And I enjoyed basketball the most because, I mean, it's basketball. It's not to love. It just comes so extremely intrinsic to me. And racquetball I loved because it was different, because nobody else was doing it, because that wasn't like, I'm not going to go to school the next day and be like, hey, how did your match go? Like, no one else was playing. That was just my thing. So hopefully we've expanded the participation a little bit since then. But in the meantime, I played all through school, and I fully intended on playing professional basketball. In fact, I don't care how old I am, I don't miss, and I guarantee you I could still help any WNBA team win. So I still want to play basketball, honestly. But it just sort of unfolded timing-wise that at the same time that my basketball career was in transition from college to pro, I sort of accidentally qualified for the U.S. team in racquetball, the adult team in racquetball for the first time. And that just happened like way earlier in my life than I thought it would. So once that happened, my father and I discussed it, and he said, you know what, basketball's always going to be here. It's not going anywhere. He's like, why don't you give racquetball your full attention for 1 year, try the pro tour for a year, and if you don't like it, go back to basketball. It's not going to be out of shape over that year, you know. So that's what we did, and I ended up playing my first full pro tour season, making the finals of my first ever US Open, and I took out the #1 player in the world at the time along the way, and I ended up finished my rookie season ranked #3 in the world. So I was like, well, I could do this for a while. Did not know a while meant another 22 years, but here we are. And I miss basketball. I do. I'm not going to say that I regret playing racquetball, but I do miss basketball. But I mean, racquetball really has given me so much. And it's definitely for love of the game. I mean, racquetball, nobody's got $1 million mansions off of that sport. I mean, there's plenty of other sports that provide a lot more money and security and benefits and whatnot. But you know, if you ask any racquetball player at any level, none of us are doing it for the money. We're doing it for love of the game, and I think that that's a testament to how spectacular the game itself really actually is. And it's just going to take the right. I don't even want to say stars aligning, because that makes it sound so improbable, and it's not that hard. It's going to take the right, you know, cascade of events and people who feel the same way about it, that is going to hopefully help bring it to the forefront of the sports world. Even just, I mean, I don't imagine it's going to be part of the big four. You know, it's not going to be basketball, baseball, hockey. It's not going to be one of those. But I mean, I think that there's no reason, I don't see any reason why it couldn't follow the trajectory of like a UFC, where it kind of goes from this underground niche sport that everyone knows about. I mean, think about it. Can't tell you, literally every single airplane I've ever been on in my life, when you get those single serving friends who ask you, oh, so what do you do? Are you traveling for business or pleasure? And I'm like, well, both, because I love my job. I'm a professional racquetball player. Yeah. Everyone has that racquetball story. Everyone. Oh, I used to play when I was a kid. Oh, my dad used to be state champ. Oh, my uncle was pretty good. He won a few tournaments. Or I played in my college rec league. Like, everybody has that racquetball story. Everybody knows that racquetball exists. They just don't know that it exists at this elite level. They don't know how the national team is doing, or if we even have a national team. They don't know about the pro tours. They don't know who's ranked what in the world. They don't, you know, they're not from, you know, we're not household names unless you're a diehard racquetball fan or player. And it's a shame, because like I said, the game itself really does have so much to offer. It's just a matter of getting the right exposure, getting the right interest built up. It's about getting the grassroots into the schools and the communities and the public parks and the rec centers, which, if you look around, most of them have racquetball courts. Yeah, but there's no leadership taking the reins, you know, developing those programs. So like I said, it's not that it's impossible. We just need the right people in the right places. And of course, everything always comes down to funding one way or another. But if we can get those things to start to finally coalesce, then I believe that absolutely right. There's no reason racquetball couldn't or shouldn't follow the trajectory of UFC, where, you know, even if you've never thrown a punch in your life, or taken a punch in your life, or thrown a kick, or, you know, any kind of submission or anything like that, you don't have to be a UFC, you know, participant to pay the $70 and watch every Saturday night. Yeah, right. You know, I mean, everybody wants to watch. I don't know what an arm bar is. I don't know how to do one, but I can point at it when I see it, when they, you know, it's just getting that public familiarity with the sport at this level. Like I said, it's not that people don't know what racquetball is. It's not that people don't have at least one of those racquetball experiences of their own, or you know, 60 degrees of separation away from someone who did. It's just a matter of capitalizing on the real estate that a racquetball court takes up, maximizing that space with as much participation and community integration as possible, and building that up in order to grow to that UFC level.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I know. Yeah, racquetball I feel like is one of those underrated sports where it's like when you play, you have so much fun, but then it's like no one actually really, I guess, thinks about it after that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know why that is. That is really interesting though, because I know
It's
a lot of people who have played it, but like until I
yeah.
met you, I wouldn't have known like another like racquetball player. Like, I actually don't even know any other racquetball players.
I'll introduce you.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
what do you feel like is the biggest lesson that sports has taught you?
ooh, I mean that's a very broad question because honestly, I think sports, all of sports, in one way or another, is a mirror for life.
Hmm.
So it's not just one thing. It's a billion things. I mean, anything that I've gone through in my life that didn't have to do with a racket or a ball or a hoop or referees or a score or a setback, anything. I have 100% leaned on sport to get me through it one way or another.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's like the Kobe Bryant quote. I'm sure you've probably heard of it, where it's like sports is the greatest metaphor that we have for life. So pretty much like the better of like a person that you become, almost like the better you're gonna do in your sport, and like vice versa.
Yeah, yep, agree 100.
But what do you feel like has kind of been a big key to your success in racquetball?
Um, I won't die.
Yeah.
No, I just have this um head first, go get it, no excuses, just get it done mentality. Just setbacks are, I guess I've always viewed setbacks as an opportunity to grow in a direction that I wouldn't have otherwise veered off to without that um, deterrent.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, that makes sense.
here's an and this is not even my own analogy. It's not even my own story, but there was a player that in his younger days was one of the hardest hitters in the game. I mean, he just blasted the ball, but mechanically he was doing it in a way that was tearing up his shoulder, and he had to have a shoulder surgery, and he could never hit that hard again. But that was the blessing in disguise because he had to instead of just counting on raw power all the time, he had to become a smarter player. He had to
Mm.
expand his capabilities of how he played the game, how he saw the game. He had to be more strategic, less brute force, and ultimately that setback made him a better player
Mm.
because now he had a more complete game. He wasn't just all rip and grip. He wasn't all power anymore. So um, stuff like that I think is a prime example of how things that happen in sport are a mirror for things that can happen in life. I mean, shoot, even one of our other allies that I just spoke to a couple of weeks ago, actually catching up, he
Mm.
he was saying something about a job opportunity, and he was literally driving to like the final interview praying for clarity uh, on what to do, and then got a phone call from his uncle regarding his mother that completely like, oh, I was worried about, am I going to do this or this? It's extremely clear. I wanted clarity, now I got it. It's not this or this, it's that, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's that way of learning how to roll with the punches. It's learning of
Hmm.
how to go all the way through to the bell. It's learning how to go when things aren't going your way, you still have to finish the game.
Right.
And that's how life is. I mean, until your life is over, you still got to finish the game.
Hmm. Yeah, I've definitely had some experiences like that in my swimming where it's like maybe my shoulder was bothering me for a week or two or something like that. I'm like, oh, I was like, I can't like swim properly like without being in pain. And so I would just end up like kicking for that week or 2 weeks, however long it was, just really focusing on my kick and trying to like lay off my shoulders and stuff. And then next thing you know, like my kick became the best part of my race.
Right. Right. Isn't that great? It's almost like the universe gives you what you need when you don't even know that you need it.
Right.
And you might hate the method of delivery of that message,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's always, and you've heard me say this, and I know you want me to tell my story, and when I get there, I know we'll come right back to this, but like you've heard me say a million times, nothing happens to you, it happens for you.
Right, exactly. So I guess this is probably leading into the story. What's like the most memorable part of your career?
Most memorable part of my career, I'm gonna go with winning the world championships in 2008 in Ireland when I wasn't even supposed to be there. And in a couple of ways, I might not have been there. One, they weren't going to let me go. Two, I should have died 7 different ways leading up to that event. So that story is June 1st, 2008. I was living in Hermosa Beach at the time, and I was walking down the Strand, which is that slab of concrete that goes up the coast where you see people biking and running and walking their dogs and whatnot, right between like all the beach houses and the actual sand. So I was walking on the Strand and saw a kid standing under the street lamp, and he initiated contact. He just kind of saw me coming. He looked over. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He's like, "How's your night?" I was like, "Kind of shitty. Oh well, you know." And I'm like, "How about you?" And before he could even answer, this other guy comes off the patio of the house that I was walking past, which was the house of my neighbor, Jim and Travis, and they were not there. Their house was completely dark, and Jim was a pilot, so he traveled quite a bit. And the other guy he just wasn't home. But that was our neighbors were on the same actual property that we lived on, and so I didn't want them to know that I lived right behind there. This guy comes out of nowhere, and I'm not going to edit this, so if you need to,
Go for it. You can be super raw.
Yeah, this guy comes out of nowhere on my side and goes, "What the fuck did you say to my boy?" And I was thrown aback, like, "I didn't say nothing to your boy, but I'm like, nothing, man. You guys just have a good night. I'm just on my way. You guys have a good night." And I walked past them, and I intentionally put my hands in my pockets so that they would not think that I was any kind of threat to them. And I took maybe 4 or 5 steps, and the next thing I know, bam! And it was more the sound than the sensation. The sensation was basically like I just felt like this whole side of my face like went over here, but it was the sound that stuck out to me. And then before I could really even finish processing what just happened, bam, this way. And it took probably 3 or 4 hits before I realized that, oh, I'm getting my ass kicked. And I got blitzed from behind. I took 12 to 15 shots, I think, to my face and my head, and all I could do was try to kind of cover up like this. And I tried to squirm a few steps away, and I squirreled away, and I turned around and I squared up. And that's when I saw that they both had brass knuckles on, which explains the weird sound.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there. Of course, instinctively, I want to hit back, but my immediate thought was, I have Worlds in 6 weeks, and I don't want to break my hand on his dumb fucking face and not be able to hold my racket and go to Worlds and represent my country. So I wasn't going to hit back if I didn't have to. I wasn't going to escalate now that they stopped hitting. Once I turned around, there was no reason for me to re-engage. But I was prepared to defend myself if I needed to. And after, I don't know, there was a few words exchanged between the two of them. I think they were a little bit panicked that I was never unconscious and I was never off my feet. I don't think they were expecting that. And I think that just the fact that I didn't escalate, and I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't run for help, I didn't beg, like none of those things happened. But I also didn't freeze. I was completely aware of I was, like micro evaluating every nanosecond to see like, what do I need to do next? So fight, flight, or freeze, I did none of the above. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's supposed to start with an F as well.
Probably.
But they actually kind of, I think, were a little thrown off that I didn't respond like a victim. And they ran off. In the meantime, I could feel my eye just like swelling, and I started to turn around and walk. I didn't walk directly right here where I lived because again, I didn't want them to see where I live. So I started walking, backtracking towards Redondo to go up and around the block on the Hermosa side. Excuse you. Thank you. That's a good girl. I turned around and walked home, and I walked home like this because I thought my eyeball was going to fall out, and I found out later that it could have. So it's a good thing I walked home like that. But you remember that? Remember that the very first Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Did you see that?
I don't know if I've seen that. I'm not a big movie guy, unfortunately.
Nah, no worries. There was in the first one there's this one pirate that had a wooden eyeball that he kept kind of polishing, and it kept falling out, and he kept having to put it back in. And I just kept thinking about that because I'm walking home like this. I'm like, oh my god, if this thing falls out, it's gonna get sand in it. They're not gonna be able to put it back in. It's gonna be gross. Like that was I was thinking of that pirate in that movie during that stroll home. And as I'm walking home, the one that initially came off the patio and got aggressive, he came back at me running with his hand up like this, like he was gonna Superman punch me when he got to me. And I heard something, so I turned around, I saw it was him, I saw he was running at me, and I just put my left hand out, and I'm like, dude, just stop. And I did that for two reasons. One, I wanted him to think that like he didn't have to prove anything. Like, okay, I'm asking you to stop. Please don't do anything else. Like, I don't need you to prove anything, right? And second reason was because I have one eye. I have no depth perception. If he does make a move and comes in, I don't need my reflexes being slow because I didn't see it coming soon enough. So I left my hand out there so that I could feel if he makes a move towards me. And so he did. He stopped, and then he threatened my life. He said, "Fuck you, bitch. I don't give a shit. I just got out of prison, bitch. I'll kill you where you stand. You think I give a shit? I don't care. I'll fucking kill you right here." And at that point, this is the only thing that came out of my mouth. At that point, I dropped both hands, I made fists, and I said, "Okay, then go ahead. Go ahead, I'm right here, kill me. What are you waiting for? Here I am, kill me." In my mind, I was thinking, I don't care that you're a guy. I don't care that you're bigger than me. I don't care that you have a weapon. I hit for a living and I know how to generate force. So you may very well kill me right here where I stand, but I will hurt you on the way down. So if you want to do that, then let's go. Mm-hmm. And also I think it was a little, you blitzed me from behind 2-on-1, you chicken shit motherfucker. Yeah. Now that we're face to face and you want to threaten my life verbally and come at me again a second time without your backup. Yeah. No, you don't get
and the fact they had brass knuckles, like, come on.
Yeah. So anyway, as I'm awaiting whatever is he gonna throw a right or a left type of thing, he kind of just looks me up and down and goes and turns around and runs off. And I'm like, all right, that's the second time you ran off, and I never threw a punch. Are we done now? Like, can I go home? So I finished walking home like this, and I wasn't even thinking about calling 911. I wasn't thinking about any kind of, the cops or going to the hospital or anything. My first thought was, damn, I really hope I have some medication at home, even if it's some Advil, because this is going to hurt in the morning. Oh, yeah. I didn't know it was as bad as it was. I didn't even look in the mirror. I got home, and my girlfriend at the time had a friend over. They were celebrating a birthday, and neither one of them paid any attention when I walked in. I just, walked in and started kind of fumbling for the Advil. She came around the corner and saw me. She's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I said, "I got hit." I remember shrugging just like that too. I'm like, "I got hit." She goes, "Who hit you?" I said, "I don't know. 2 guys downstairs." She goes, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know. Do you want to go ask them?" Because I still don't know. Anyway, during those 3 sentences, her friend was on 911 quick, and they it felt like they showed up in about 4 seconds. They were there immediately, and they hauled me off to the hospital, and I had scans, and they came and told me that I had several facial fractures and was going to need a reconstructive surgery. And in the meantime, the eye specialist was going to come in and check my eye, and that was horrible. But I think the worst part of anything that happened at the hospital was my girlfriend went down the hall to call my mom. And from down the hall, I could hear my mother's shriek over the phone.
Jeez.
And that was, I can't unhear that. Like that to this day, that still breaks my heart, knowing that the people that I love were in so much pain because of their love for me. But yeah, I remember when she handed me the phone, I knew that I had to be stronger for them in a way that I didn't necessarily need to be for myself. I felt like I'm gonna be fine. Like I'm not worried about recovering and coming back from this. But seeing how that whole situation affected the people closest to me, I knew that I couldn't have any cracks in my armor for their sake. And I remember when she handed me the phone, I was like, Mom, I'm fine. I'm really fine. At the end of the day, I'm like, they didn't rape me, they didn't rob me, they didn't kill me. I'm fine. At the end of the day, I just took some shots to the face. It's no big deal. And all these years later, like I'm still in excruciating pain. I'm actually in more pain now than I've ever been. I actually have to have another surgery coming up. I had one last year. I have to have another one by the end of this year. So it wasn't a life-changing event, but it's definitely a life, it's the gift that keeps on giving, if you will.
Yeah.
But I ended up having facial reconstructive surgery 10 days later. They had to wait that long because the swelling was so severe. And then my surgery was supposed to take 4 to 5 hours, and mine took over 12 because the scans didn't accurately reflect the amount of damage inside. It took them a lot longer to pull out all the shards of bone that had shattered before they could start reconstructing. So,
Jeez.
Yep, I lost 37 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
And I remember going home and I'm like, all right, I got less than 5 weeks to get ready for Worlds. And I couldn't even walk. I was so heavily medicated. I wasn't allowed to sleep laying down for about a month. I had to go get my equilibrium recalibrated twice a week from a specialist. There's just a lot of things that happened in that, recovery process that you don't think about until you're like, what do you mean I can't even lay down to sleep? So naturally I didn't sleep very well.
Yeah.
But I remember having a phone call with the U.S. team head coach. Obviously, it spread like wildfire through the racquetball world and beyond. It went through very quickly. I was prepared for the climb back. I was prepared for the mental, the physical, all the things that go into recovering from something like that. I was not prepared for the emotional outpouring of support that I got. I got my face shattered. I didn't cry. I went to the hospital and I had facial reconstructive surgery. I didn't cry. I had to watch both of my parents fly immediately to California, just completely broken at what happened to me, and watch how helpless they felt. But I didn't cry. I came home from the hospital and saw that first bouquet of flowers and the stack of cards that people had sent, and I lost it. Like I wasn't emotionally prepared for not being alone. I'm an only child. I travel. My career has been mostly solitary, and it's not on purpose. It's just if somebody's not there, they're not there. I've only mostly ever had myself to rely on most of the time. So I was expecting this to be more of the same. And then when I found out, how many people were reaching out when I was getting stuff in the mail and flowers and voicemails and text messages and emails, and finding out about all these tournaments that were going on, not just around the country, but even in other countries that were fundraising tournaments for me. People that made, tons of t-shirts that they were selling and sending me the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, to help with my medical bills. Like I did not expect that. I had no idea that that would galvanize the community in the way that it did. And that I wasn't prepared for that. That brought me to tears. That to this day still makes me get goosebumps, because it just shows that, this really is a tremendous sport with a tremendous group of people that care about it. And that was reflected in how they responded to something that happened to me. And I think that the sport deserves better than it's getting, personally. But anyway, so I was on the phone with our US team coach at the time, and he wanted to hear what happened and how was I doing, and asked a lot of questions. And then I remember at the end of the conversation, he said, "All right, well, get well, kid. We're all gonna be playing our asses off for you." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be playing my ass off with you guys too." And he kind of chuckled. And he's like, "You're not going." And what? Don't you dare take that away from me. Worlds is the reason I didn't hit back. Don't you dare take that away from me. Like, I still want to go. And he's like, "There's no way you're going to be capable of playing. Like, look at you. You can't even eat solid food." I'm like, so like, I was dedicated. I mean, Worlds was the reason I was getting up in the morning trying to make the most of my day however I could. No, I couldn't walk. They literally gave me a walker to get from point A to point B because I was so weak, because I was so heavily medicated, because I physically couldn't do anything. And yet I had it in my mind, in my mindset. I'm like, no, I'm going. I have 4 weeks. I'll be ready. And he wasn't hearing it. And so that actually devastated me more than anything that happened to me the night that I got jumped. That broke me more than anything that broke my face. And he he was staying in touch and whatnot, but about 2 or 3 days later, because I fell into a hard depression for those 2 or 3 days, and I knew that I couldn't continue on like that. So I sent him an email and I copied the board on it, and I said, "Dear Dave, apparently whether or not I go to the World Championships is not up to me, but whether or not I am ready for the World Championships is entirely up to me. So you do what you feel you need to do is best for Team USA. Have your meetings, have your phone calls, have your votes, do what you need to do. But just so you know, whether I go to Ireland with Team USA or not, I will be ready to be the world champion by July 27th. July 27th was the day that all of our flights were supposed to leave to go to Ireland. So as soon as I hit send, I had to let it go. Like, I had to let go of any expectation of an outcome once I sent that. And I just put my head down and went right back to work trying to get ready for Worlds, whatever that looked like for me that day. And I'll be honest with you, and you especially know this, it was almost 100% visualization, because I couldn't physically do anything. I would watch video. I would visualize a practice on the court. I would visualize going to the gym and lifting weights. I would visualize footwork drills. I would visualize, anything that I would or should be doing in prep for the World Championships. I just had to do it all here. I couldn't do it from here down. So I didn't reach out again. I don't think he really reached out either for a while. And then in the second week of July, I signed up for an outdoor tournament that takes place in Huntington Beach, and I signed up for 3 divisions. And I feel like I actually might have won one of them, but I remember being very, very pissed that I didn't win all 3 of them. I'm still 37 pounds underweight. I got jumped on June 1st. I didn't eat solid food again until October. Whoa. That's an indication how long I never, to this day, I have never actually reached the weight that I was at the time that I got jumped. So I'm still trying to put it all back on.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I'm a hard gainer. But he actually drove down from Stockton to watch me play in that outdoor event. And it was I mean, I was just happy to be out there playing, and I had to have one of those customized, protective masks on, like in the NBA when they get a broken nose or something. I had that, except mine was meant to protect this whole side of my face. And he said that he's like, wow, I'm really shocked. He's like, I didn't expect you to be able to perform like that so soon. And I was like, see, I should go to Worlds. And he's like, yeah, but blah, blah, blah. He's like, what about your doctors? Are they gonna sign a medical release for you to go? And I'm like, don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. I'll take care of them. And he had legitimate concerns, and I understand why. And I understand that, he doesn't want to be responsible for something catastrophic happening to me on a trip that I shouldn't be on. I get that. But at the same, from my end, I don't want to be responsible for being the weakest link on Team USA. If I didn't 100% feel that I was still, even in that state, the best option for Team USA to do well at the World Championships, I would not have insisted on going. And the conversation we were having, he made some kind of comment about my performance, and I said, Dave, I don't need my face to hit the ball. My arms and my legs still work. And he laughed and he goes, well, that's a good point. He's like, I didn't really think of it like that. And I'm like, well, I just did it here for 3 days. I said, it's, I'm capable of continuing to play. Like I'm capable of still playing at a high enough level for Team USA to do well at Worlds. Like I'm not trying to go to Worlds has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with my ego. It's that I earned this spot and I want to keep it because I feel like I'm the best option for you, for the team, for our country to do the best that we possibly can. And the last thing I want to do is be the reason that we don't do well. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to you guys. I wouldn't put myself in that position because of my ego, because I don't have one. It's that I want Team USA to do well. And I feel like I can contribute to that genuinely. And I guess that sentence of, Dave, I don't need my face to hit the ball. My arms and my legs still work. I guess that kind of won him over. And he did recommend that I maintain my spot and travel to the World Championships. And 64 days after getting jumped, 53 days after facial reconstructive surgery, and 29 days after voluntarily abandoning all pain medication against medical advice, I won my first World Championship without losing a single game. I never even went to breaker in a single match. And I remember, I just got goosebumps. I remember I hit the winning shot. I turned around and gave my opponent a hug, who I know was going through her own, very, very heavy personal things right then with her family. I think her father had just had a heart attack or a stroke or something, and she was playing through a lot as well. Anyway, I gave her a hug and congratulated her, and then I just fell to my knees and I started bawling uncontrollably because all I could think of was, I'm not even supposed to be here. And in that sentence, I mean, like, they weren't even going to let me come, and I could or should have died 7 different ways that night, and I'm still here. And so that's why, I maintain that I was never a victim. It's just something that happened. It sucks and it hurts on a daily basis, even all these years later. But that daily pain is my daily reminder of all that I have to be grateful for. It's a blessing to know. It's a blessing to have been able to learn all the things that I have learned, even about myself, through that experience. And that's why I've always done a lot of public speaking, but it all just kind of fell into my lap. But then once that happened, that gave me like a new platform and new life lessons to learn from. And I'm tying all this back to, you asked me about sports as it relates to life and whatnot. And this couldn't be more, on the nose. It's completely educational, really. I mean, one of the questions I get quite a bit when I do speaking is, if you would have known that this was going to happen, would you still have gone out, that night to go to the store? And I'm like, absolutely, absolutely, because that experience, even though it gave me this daily pain, it gave me so much more that I don't know how I could have learned or gotten those lessons or gotten that support in through another avenue. It sucks when when it hurts, when it hurts to the point that I'm curled up on the floor waiting for somebody to come home because it hurts so bad I can't get up. And you wonder, like, your legs still work. You just said it, your arms and your legs still work. Yes. But when it hurts so bad in your face that you can't drink room temperature water, and you realize that you stopped eating because it hurts, and you realize that you're not sleeping because it hurts, and it literally affects every single area of your daily existence, that's different than trying to command your body to perform a skill that you've been training at since you were 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously a different level of pain as well. If I felt like that, I wouldn't be able to play.
Right.
But it's given me a new platform to be able to help more people, and that's my main goal with that experience, is using that experience to serve others however I can.
That's so amazing. Jeez, I had like goosebumps like pretty much through the entire story. I'm like, oh my God.
I got goosebumps twice myself, and I'm like, man, I've repeated this 1,000 times, and it's still, it's impactful on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is my second time I've heard it, and still feels like it's the first time. I'm just like, wow. Like I'm still so impressed, just like with how you handled the situation and just how much you've grown from it, and the discipline and the mental toughness you had to get through all that. So I know for a fact, like 99.9% of people have not been able to handle that even close to as well as you did. So I want to say I'm proud of you for handling it that well, because that's something very commendable.
Thank you.
Man, I wish I could have seen like what that early is that game, the one that you won, is that live? Like, is there a video recording of that?
There is, and I know there is because I've found it a couple of times. I can literally call the guy who did who was doing the production of that World Championships and ask him to send it to me in a shareable file, because I found it, but it's always taken me a while to find it, just because, I mean, I'm dating myself. I don't know if YouTube was as popular then. I don't know if it's on YouTube anymore. But I did find it somewhere, because I remember watching it, and I've only ever watched it once because I cried so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's crazy. Even within, it's like there's lessons within lessons within lessons. This life event, like I said, it's never been a tragedy. It's just been something that happened. It's an experience. It didn't derail my life. It gave me so much more. It added so much more to my life. And I know that sounds weird, especially when I'm in so much pain so frequently, but it really has given me so much more than it took. And for that, I'm grateful. But for example, I remember during that finals match, I was losing the first game pretty severely. I was losing 12-4. And I remember taking a timeout feeling like, God, what do I need to do different? And it was like I heard my own voice come in and start coaching me, saying, you don't need to do anything different. Stick with the game plan, just execute it better. Oh, okay. So instead of like trying to upend and totally revamp and change everything I'm trying to do, no, just keep doing what I'm doing. Just execute it better. Like, you're not going to tell Steph Curry to stop shooting. Just tell him to start making it, right?
Right.
So that was essentially the advice that I got from somewhere inside myself. And I turned it around and I came back and I beat her, I think 15, it was either 15-12 or 15-13. Like, I turned around and outscored her like 11-0 or 11-1 and won that first game. And then in the second game, I was up 12-5 4 or 5. And then she made a little bit of a run, and I was able to slow her down there at the end. And I think I ended up winning that one like 15-8 or 10 maybe. And I remember very clearly the winning shot that I hit was a backhand down the left side. And I hit it. I started to move. I watched it go by, and I watched the fact that she was still over here and didn't get it. And we shook hands and gave a hug, and she walked off the court, and I stayed on, and I just kind of fell, and my back was to the crowd, and I started crying. And like I said, I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be here. And then the thing that kind of shook me out of that state at the time was, I'm like, oh shit, there's a men's final on after this. I need to get off the court. I don't know how long I was on there. I don't know how long I was on there. It could have been 10 seconds. It could have been 10 minutes. I don't know. I have to go back and watch the video. But what I do remember was the crowd was, there was a standing applause after the match. And by the time I stood up and turned around to walk off, everyone was there and they were still standing, but it was dead silent. I thought everyone left. That's why I was like, oh my God, how long have I been on here? I think everyone left. The men's match is supposed to start soon. I turned around and they were all there. And I was like, oh geez. But like, I remember like even in finishing that match, in that first game when I was down, like what I learned then is like, if just because I'm behind in the score doesn't mean that that the game plan is flawed. It just means that like maybe my execution could be a little more precise. And so that's what I focused on. And that was like a big lesson to me playing wise, in that moment. And then I know my fight or flight response.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people thankfully don't ever have to find out if you figure that out. But it's nice to know mine. Like I know what I can take so far. I know what I can take. I know what I can take. I know what my threshold is. And I know that, again, fight, flight, or freeze. I did none of the above. I had the presence of mind to be present in the situation and not reflexively make it worse. And I also know that apparently, and I didn't even think about this until literally just within a couple of years ago, I was having lunch with my lawyer and he mentioned this to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I never really thought of it that way. But he said, well, so it sounds like you were okay with your life ending that night if it did. Like you're okay with your life, up to that point, like you felt like you lived a good enough life that you didn't. And I was like, yeah, I never thought of it that way, but I guess you are right. Like I didn't when I thought that it could have ended when he came back that second time and threatened to kill me, and I thought we were going to go and he might actually kill me. It never crossed my mind of like, oh, but wait, I'm not done doing all the things I want to do. Oh, I please let me say goodbye to my family. Like, oh wait, I don't have, there was never any kind of feeling of incomplete, like wait, I'm not ready, I can't die yet. And I never thought of it that way. Like that, none of that was a conscious thought. I mean, my conscious thought in that moment was obviously survival,
Right.
but there was obviously some level of acceptance if that was the end of my journey. And I'm not saying that I was okay with it, but I think I've just sort of always felt like, look, when it's your time, and we don't get to decide when that is. And if that's it, I will fight to the death to stay alive tonight. But if I don't, it was my time one way or the other, whether it happened at the hands of brass knuckles or car accident or struck by lightning. When it's your time, it's your time. And so I guess I just, there was some acceptance in, yes, I have lived a good full life. And I even before that happened, I've always lived my life that way. Always. I always say I love you to the people I love when I get on a plane. I always let them know that I landed safe. I always say good morning and I always say good night. And that's because you really don't know. You think that just because there's not some crazy impending danger, runaway train on the tracks that you're standing on heading at you, that you can see it coming, you think that it's not going to happen. And we just don't know. We really don't. So I do want to make sure that I don't leave those unfulfilled promises or emotional loose ends. The people that I love, I want to make sure that they know how much I love them as often as possible.
Mm-hmm. I remember this quote. I can't remember who said it though, but there's something along the lines of like, what, basically like if you're in like a situation, like a pretty like stressful situation, or like let's say you're in like a boxing match or something like that, and the guy who's not afraid to die is like a really, really dangerous man. Or like in war, if you have like a whole country or like majority of people in that country who are just like not afraid to die, like they'll accept their death, they're going to do whatever it takes not to die, like that's dangerous. Like those people are very dangerous. And I know Mike Tyson was very similar to that. He's like, well, one, he wanted to kill people in the ring. Like he's like, it doesn't count if they don't die. It's just like, geez, that's crazy intense. But he had like kind of the same mentality where he's like I'll die in this ring, like, but I'm gonna try to kill every single one of these people in it as well. But
there's a song there's a song with a line that just came out last year. I really like the band and the song too. Is the song is called Impermanence, and it's about our impermanence, like everyone's gonna die. But anyway, there's a line in this song where it says, because those afraid to die will never truly live. Which I love as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that song just came out last year. That's not like something that I've intentionally lived by because of the song, but as soon as I heard that, it resonated immediately. I'm like, yep, that's it.
Yeah. You have to send me that song.
I will. It's
okay.
It's really good. Yeah, it's by a band called Architects, and I like the hard stuff.
Yeah.
But they've got two songs. One of them is called Animals. The other one's called Impermanence. I mean, they have a lot of great songs, but those are my two favorites, and okay. they're both, yeah. But Impermanence is just definitely it's about the fragility of life. It's awesome. It's a great song.
Have you ever thought about like if you would have acted differently in the situation, like how the situation could have turned out, or have you like replayed it like that?
I mean, I have thought about it, but it's hard for me to it's hard for me to figure out what that would be, because I didn't think about how I reacted. It was primal. It was instinctive. It was literally survival. Survive in advance.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, what if I did get on the ground? Would they have kicked me? Would they have curb stomped me? Would it have been worse? Would they have tried to rape me? Would they have tried to hold me down and do more damage? I mean, I don't know. If I did try to cry out for help, would they have gotten more aggressive trying to shut me up? I don't know.
Or like if you fought back or something.
If I fought back, would I have escalated a situation into a worse beating? Now I don't just have a shattered face. I have a cracked skull and a broken vertebrae and cracked ribs and broken legs. I mean, internal bleeding. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. And maybe if I would have cried for help, maybe somebody would have came. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying any of those options would have, determined certain dread, but maybe if I would have called for help, maybe if I would have tried to run to the nearest house that wasn't mine, maybe if I would have, I mean, there's 1,000 different what ifs, but if I knew that things were going to go down exactly the way they did, would I still go back? And if I had a time machine, would I still walk down the street that night? Yeah, probably. Because again, I feel like I learned so much about myself, about life, about what I'm capable of, what I believe all human beings are capable of on the good side of the spectrum and on the bad, unfortunate side of the spectrum.
Right.
I mean, who just goes up and just starts beating people from behind with brass knuckles for no reason?
Yeah.
Obviously, they needed a hug as a child. They didn't get, you know. So it's like I said, nothing happens to you, it happens for you, and whatever daily pain I endure is my daily reminder of all that I have to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for that experience. And you know, another thing that's interesting is I've had a lot of people ask me, did they ever catch them? And the answer is no, they never did. And the other question I get is, you know, I know somebody. You just point me in their direction. I'll make them pay. You know, everyone wants to get that retribution for me. And the weird thing is, I don't have that sensation. It's almost as if I forgave them somewhat instantaneously. Like I really never thought about getting revenge on them for this. Like that's actually it's just, I don't know, that doesn't resonate with me at all. And I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, when I go to LA, I look like I subconsciously am scanning the crowd every single time I'm in Los Angeles, waiting to see if one of them will walk by. Oh, would you recognize them all this time later? Absolutely. You don't forget the face of evil. You don't forget the face of somebody who literally threatens to kill you where you stand. And then you continue to stand there and look at them. So, but at the same time, like, I don't want to find them to, you know, hey, I tracked them down, they're over here, and like send somebody else to go kill them or go kill them myself. Like I don't have that I don't have that vengeful sensation when I think about those two people at all. If anything, I forgave them probably almost instantly. And second of all, I feel sorry for whatever occurred in their life to take them to that point, which I can't explain. I mean, if they would have done that to somebody that I care about, I absolutely would be vengeful. But because it happened to me, I feel like my choice on how I receive what happened is, damn, I am really sorry that you are at this point in your life that you think that this is okay. That this is how you choose to spend your Saturday night. That this is that there was some purpose for you to do this to a stranger. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, maybe they were on something. Maybe they were, you know, on some kind of chemical, you know, I don't know. But I don't have to know that I don't wish them any harm because of what they did to me. I wish them to get whatever help they need so that they don't do it to anybody else.
What do you think you would do if you were walking in LA and you did see them in the crowd? Like, would you approach them or like say, okay, like, look how far I've come? Or like, would you just walk the other way? Or
no, actually, I think I mean, kind of just gave me chills when you said that, because I'm like, man, I it's been so long and I haven't seen them. If I actually did, I don't know what I would do. I would probably follow them. Like, I would want to know where they are at in their life in a way. But I mean, I would at least I'd probably follow them just to be like, hey, I'm sure the statute of limitations is like, you know, way expired, but FYI, this guy who did this to me on June 1st, 2008, I just saw him and he's working over here, or I saw him walk into this home. I don't know if he lives there, if that's a friend's house or whatever, but you know, I found one. Like, I would want to report it at least, even though I don't think that there's legally anything that can be done. But, you know, I actually, interestingly enough, more than once, I think 2 or 3 times actually, within 5 years, this wasn't like immediately after, this was like over the course of 5 years after I got jumped, had other people in that area ask me specifics about my encounter, specifics that don't get covered in the interviews, because something happened to someone they know.
Hmm.
and they wanted to know, and they're like, I wonder if it's the same guys.
Hmm.
So that being said, I'm obviously not the only one. So even if they don't catch them on behalf of whatever they may have done to me, hopefully they can prevent them from continuing to do it to others, if indeed they have.
Yeah. I feel like somebody like that by now would be in jail. Like, I'm guessing I have a feeling you probably would never see him again, just because someone who is doing something like that, most likely, especially if they've done it to more than one person, I'm sure they're
I
caught
did
by
see
now.
I did see one of them. I mean, it was I was still living in the South Bay, so it had to have been sometime within. I got jumped on June 1st, and I moved out um, in the middle of January. So sometime within that time frame,
Hmm.
I did see one of them
Oh, wow.
standing on the sidewalk right outside of the convenience store that I happened to be walking to that night, and it was the middle of the afternoon. And if you've never been on Hermosa Avenue, um, I was driving south towards my home, and I came to a stop sign. And I just happened to look over, and he's literally standing right there.
Hmm.
But I had already stepped on. There was a car behind me, so I had already stepped on the gas, and I went down to the next stop sign, turned around, came back around, and was just looking. I figured maybe he's just walking, along the sidewalk one way or another. He was gone. But
Hmm.
I 100% did see one of them.
What did you feel when you saw him? Like what were the emotions you felt?
Holy shit, that's him. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anxiety. It was more surprise. Like, when you actually find the needle in the haystack, you're
Yeah.
like, look, I found it.
Yeah.
It was more of a, oh shit, there he is. Like, he's right there. But by the time I came back, and then I think the fact that I saw him plain as day, no doubt, 100%, that was him. Um, I think there was a disappointment in, like, oh, it was right there. Like, you find the needle in the haystack and then you drop it.
Yeah.
It again. It was that, like, I got it. Oh shit, I lost it.
Oh man, yeah.
But it was. I'm like, well, all right. So I know he's around, and maybe
Hmm.
that's why. And I mean, I moved out of the South Bay in mid-January, and I went down into Orange County for the next 2 years. But I still go to LA quite a bit. I was literally in the South Bay the other day, and even just being there, if I'm whether I'm in the restaurant or on the patio or walking along the Strand, or walking my beautiful, loud, barky Smurf puppy, or getting coffee, or having a shot, watching a football game. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like at any and all times, I'm subconsciously hyper vigilant, not because I'm scared, but I think because there's just that. I wonder if there will ever be any kind of resolution to that.
Hmm.
You know, like, I
Yeah.
wonder if, and like I said, legally, I'm pretty sure there's absolutely no legal recourse of any kind at this point. Which, I mean, that's fine. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, but it's more of a. It's like if you have 1,000-piece puzzle and you lose one piece,
Mm.
and that puzzle will never feel complete enough to put back in the box.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like I need that, but at the same time, it's like, all
It's
right,
kind of
so
like
that one.
closure.
Yeah, it's like if that one puzzle piece is missing, I'm like, hey, I lifted up the couch to vacuum today, and I'm gonna look for that puzzle piece just in case it's under here.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't think about them at all. Like, when
That's
I
good.
when I'm addressing this, I don't think about them at all. It's
Hmm.
not it's not a you know, I'm not putting their pictures on milk cartons or anything.
Hmm.
Help me find these people. Like,
Yeah.
no, because it's got nothing to do with any kind of retribution or vengeance, or I'm not trying to exact a price on them in any way. It's just, um, it would be just, I guess, maybe an interesting twist in the final chapter of however the story is gonna write itself.
Yeah, definitely. How do you I guess let's kind of switch topics a little bit. How did you or I guess what would be like some advice for a young aspiring racquetball player or anyone in sports? Like what advice would you give them?
You have to believe in yourself before you can expect anyone else to believe in you. You
Mhm,
have to know what you're capable of, and you have to maintain that conviction no matter what you go through.
mhm,
And also, in order to believe in yourself, you have to know yourself. Don't set unreasonable expectations, and don't set the bar too low. And I mean, all of these things comes with growth. It comes with growth and experience.
mhm.
Your opinion of yourself and your convictions are going to change, a million times as you go through things and learn how you handle things. And I think that's also the most important thing, is to continue learning. Continue to learn about yourself. Continue to be your own biggest fan, and your biggest teacher and student.
Mhm.
My racquetball coach, and I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it's probably like this for you in swimming to an extent, because you're under the water.
Mhm.
You're in that lane by yourself. You can hear that there's things being said, but you can't have a conversation while you're underwater.
Yeah, definitely not.
But like, even the one of the greatest things I love about my racquetball coach, Jim Winterton, is he's like, don't make me a crisis manager. Don't just come to me when you're in crisis and you need help. He's like, you need to trust the practice, and if you're doing what you should be doing, you should be able to trust the practice, which means you are your best coach. I'm not. I'm your racquetball coach, but you are the one who's got to go out there and execute it. So,
Right.
for example, I'll be at the end of a match, and my opponent will take a timeout, and let's say I'm 3 points away from winning the match. I'll ask my coach, all right, what are the next three serves? Give me the next three serves I should hit, and he'll give me three. And I might do one of them, I might do all three of them, I might do none of them, because when I get in the box, I'm the one feeling the match. So if
Mhm.
he wanted me to do this serve, but I feel like this is the one that I'm feeling, and here's why, I'm gonna go with what I feel. I'm not gonna go. I'm not talking about, like, ignore your coach, but a good coach creates athletes that are capable of coaching themselves.
Mhm.
It's the basketball player who knows what to do without having to look at the sideline between every single play. You have to develop your instincts. You have to develop your feel. You have to be able to develop your ability to let the game come to you, so that you can bend it to your will. But you can't do that, charging headfirst through a brick wall, or, you know, and again, I'm not saying to disrespect your coach. This is actually more of an admonishment to coaches that might see this, is make sure that your athletes have the ability to think for themselves. It shouldn't
Mhm.
be about the coach. It couldn't should
Right.
it shouldn't it shouldn't it should always be about the athlete,
Mhm.
and the athlete being able to trust themselves. And
Mhm.
it's a coach's job, yes, to coach, but I think it's a coach's job to make sure that the athlete knows that they can count on themselves, and help them learn all of who they are, so that they can like and believe and have confidence in and trust who they are as a person, as an athlete.
Mhm. I love that answer. Yeah, definitely. Like, I like what you said about being your own coach, because yeah, at the end of the day, like just reflecting on my swimming, I remember there was times where it's like I feel like I've had coaches that were pretty like amazing. I've had coaches like kind of everywhere in between, and like I remember especially like in high school. I'm not saying he was a bad coach by any means, but he wasn't as much into the technical stuff. He was more just like he had a different philosophy on it, and I kind of had to like teach myself a lot of the proper techniques and like go on YouTube, like do all this like extra stuff that wasn't like expected out of me, but it was expected out of me because I want out of myself. I expected out of myself because I wanted those results, you know. And so like I had to coach myself to learn. Okay, like maybe I do this with my arms, or this is how I can have a better dolphin kick, or things like that, you know. So
Yeah,
I like that you said that.
yeah,
All right, so I got two more questions, and then we'll go into like kind of like the speed round questions. First one is, did you have like a role model that you looked up to, like in sports or outside of sports, growing up?
absolutely. I had several. My father. Um, He was the oldest of 5 boys. All 5 of them played professional something. My father played 2 years of pro baseball and semi-pro basketball. My Uncle Tim played another couple of years of pro baseball. My Uncle David and Uncle Gary made careers out of baseball. They both have World Series rings. My Uncle Robbie still holds the record for the longest punt at the University of Miami. Then he kicked for the Chargers. Then he became a professional golfer. So I came out of the womb with high expectations.
Yeah.
But also if we mean outside of my immediate family, definitely Michael Jordan and Pete Maravich.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a big Michael Jordan fan too. I'm sure you know that. But obviously, we got Tim Grover in common as our mentor. So
right.
But so yeah, next question is: what strengths do you feel like makes you a great athlete?
Honestly, I think mindset and determination is a huge part of it. Like I said, I just won't die, and by that I mean not even literally in the sense of my attack story, but like you can never count me out. Like until that final bell has rung, like you can never ever count me out. I will find a way, or I will make a way. I will not make an excuse. But also I guess physically, I mean in racquetball, I feel like I can definitely out physical anyone. I can outlast anyone. Like the more I play, the better I play. Like I don't get tired. I don't get tired till the tournament's over. I might get tired at the end of a day, but like the fact that I still have more matches to play, that I have more work to do tomorrow, that completely reinvigorates me. I mean, I might be in bed for 2 days after a long event, like the US Open or something. But during the event, it's like this constant adrenaline flood, because I thrive on competition. I thrive on competition, on challenge, on by all means, please tell me I can't, just so that I can prove you wrong.
I know. I love that. That's how I am too. I'm like, when people tell me like, or they're hating on me or don't think I can do something, it just fires me up so much. I just want to prove them like what show them, like, okay, really, that's what you think? All right, let's see.
Exactly.
But so these last 2 questions are questions that I ask everyone at the end of each podcast. They're like the speed round questions I was telling you. So what's the best piece of advice that you've got that's impacted you the most?
Ooh.
I know it's a hard one.
No, actually, I was gonna say something funny. I was gonna say something funny, but it's not related to sports. I would say, all right, I know this is a speed round. I'm supposed to answer this quickly, but my very first national title, I was at match point. I was up 10-9 in the tiebreaker, and I had a big fat setup, and I got aggressive, and I missed it. And you could hear the whole building go, oh. Now my opponent is serving, but she's nervous, so she takes a timeout. I come out, and one of my friends said, "Dude, you had to take that shot. That's your shot. You're gonna get that shot again, and you're gonna take it again. Just make it next time." So basically, it was like don't fear failure. Play your game. Don't change your game. Don't change your style. Don't change who you are because of a miss. Again, like Steph Curry's not going to stop shooting if he's having an off night. He's going to shoot his way out of it, right? So it was that kind of advice of like, dude, that's your shot again. You have to take that shot. Like that's who you are. That's what you do. You're not the conservative percentage player. You're the aggressive, get after it player. So, and that's what happened. My opponent hit like the most perfect serve she hit the whole match. I flat rolled it, got the serve back, hit the serve I wanted to hit, had it all planned out, and I got that exact same shot set up again, and I took it and I made it, and that was literally match point, and I won my first national title. So I guess it would something like that. Like, that's your shot, take your shot. If you miss it, take it again.
That reminds me of another Kobe Bryant story where it was like, I think it's his rookie year, where and it was him and Shaq, and he airballed like, I think three pointers in a row or something like that. Like his shot was just a little bit off every time, and Kobe is like, yeah, just keep passing me the ball. He's like, I don't care if I miss. He said, I'll keep shooting it until it goes in, basically. And I remember Shaq was like, hey man, like don't worry about what people are saying. He's like, one day you're gonna be like super feared. Just keep like doing what you're doing and stuff. And obviously, you know how that turned out. Like he's one of the GOATs. So, yeah. And then, what would you say is your favorite quote and why?
Nothing happens to you and it happens for you, because it really, if you can look at any situation in your life through that lens, it will fundamentally change how you look at every situation in your life. Mm-hmm. Because if you can look at it through the lens of opportunity rather than the lens of victimology and why me and what was me and poor me, and it will completely change your ability to use that for yourself, not against yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's preparing you for something, or like everything has meaning behind it. So love that. And then last question, what book do you recommend everyone should read?
I got two.
Okay.
Relentless and Winning, both by Tim Grover. That is not intended to be necessarily a plug for Tim Grover, but I mean, I will say why they're so important to me personally, even if I never spoke to the guy, even if you know, we never connected through the method that we did. Those two books, like I said, I've always felt very, very alone in what I do and in how I am. I'm cut from a different cloth. I haven't found many, if any, people that I feel like I can have these kind of conversations with at the depth and reveal this much of myself and feel understood. When I read Relentless, I felt like somebody followed me around for my whole life and wrote a book about how I think and feel and do what I do. And I never knew that they were writing a book about me. And I don't mean that from an ego standpoint. I just meant like, oh my God, I feel heard. I feel understood. I feel like somebody who I've never even met gets it. Yeah. And then if I felt like, you know, I was shadowed and written about in Relentless, I felt like I was dissected for winning. Yeah. I felt like that one, like, you know, literally sliced me open and took a microscope to my cellular being and wrote a book about that. So it's those two books are so impactful for me because it goes beyond relatable. It goes into somebody put words to how I think and feel in ways that I was not capable of finding those words myself. And so to feel heard, to feel understood, to feel not alone through those two books, because they get it. I feel like they get me, and I had nothing to do with either one of them. Just that was such a. It's still a really incredible feeling.
So guys, this is like the third time we've had the Relentless and Winning come up. So if you haven't ordered the book yet, I don't know what you guys are waiting for. I don't know either. I said it was one of my favorites. I believe Ruben mentioned it. You've mentioned it. So you guys got to get Relentless and Winning. They're both incredible books. But yeah, Rhonda, thank you again so much for hopping on the podcast and sharing your story. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to hear from you, buddy. Let's stay in touch. Let's not have such a long streak of silence next time.
I know. Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.